Digital transformation also is in many ways that way, because at any point in time, if you look at it, the market demand, the technology, the ecosystem, the policies, the political stimulation, they are all not same. They're all changing. If I go back and talk about, say, a dial-up to my kids, they don't even know what is dial-up.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I'm Sunny Pancholi, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. We have one such industry heavyweight on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Mr. Santosh Shinde. He is an esteemed leader in the domain of digital transformation and enterprise architecture. His current role as Assistant Vice President at HCL Tech has seen him leading the IT strategy of the CIO office, administering business transformations, and overseeing the deployment of IT strategies for over 300 systems with multi-million-dollar budgets. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, Mr. Shinde.
Thank you very much, Sunny, for the introduction, and thank you for having me on the FaceTime. It's a pleasure and an opportunity to share my experience with my fellow colleagues in the industry. So look forward to sharing my thoughts and what my experiences have been in the past through this forum. Right.
So, Mr. Shinde, to begin with, could you provide a brief overview of your career journey and what led you to your current role at HCL Technologies?
Certainly. So as you mentioned, I have about 25 years of experience in the industry, primarily focused on digital transformation and enterprise architecture and IT strategy to a large extent. And my professional journey has been both diverse and enriching, primarily because of the industries that I got associated with and the company that I had been working with. So throughout my career, I also have been fortunate enough to have excellent bosses, mentors, and coaches who provided invaluable guidance and support throughout my career. And their mentorship has been instrumental in shaping my professional path and achievements so far. And my job also kind of required me to travel and relocate multiple times, which helped me in gaining wide array of global scale experiences. And of course, there is a family behind me that kind of stood by and made sure that I'm kind of garnering these experiences across various channels that I can assimilate, right? So now all that it started off was in 1998, I would say, when I completed my engineering degree and joined a startup called Envision Technologies. It was based out of Hubli in Karnataka, and as it is to do with most of these startups, my job required me to do multidisciplinary tasks, meaning I would do the product development, and for a microfinance industry back then, I was also delivering numerous websites for some of the prominent institutes, even that time in Bangalore and US-based institutes primarily, and then conducting trainings because it's a startup, you need the cash flow. So had to do all of those things. But in the end, it kind of shaped up a very, very good career path for me. It kind of provided that broader experience straight out of college, right? You get to do the hardware, you get to do the software, you get to do the training, you go and talk to the customers. So it's a wide array of experience that I got to kind of gain in a very short span of time straight out of college. There onwards, I joined Wipro Technologies, where I worked for some of the, again, big customers in manufacturing industry. That's where it also happened that I did my first international assignment. I had to travel, deploy, speak to customer, engage with them, and started gaining insights into why do they certain things, right? I still did not fully realize. I was still a pretty young mind in the industry. Then I joined Cognizant Technology Solutions, which I spent about 13 years in the organization there. And that has a large role to play in my career so far. As I said, I was fortunate enough to have good bosses associated with me, and good number of coaches, mentors, and so forth. So when I spent about 3-4 years, I was a techie outright, right, in the beginning. And in one of the conversations, one of the boss asked, do you know why you are doing what you are doing? So that kind of triggered my thought process in terms of understanding why I'm doing. And I said, okay, I'm doing this solution because of this reason. They said, no, you are looking at what you are doing, not actually why you are doing. You have to go beyond this and see why customers are doing it. So then we went to customers and started asking, because for outright techie, getting into the business segment, understanding the business process, the reasons behind, was something that was different, right? And that is a question which probably kind of shifted my thought process towards the IT strategy altogether. Then I started seeing more of if I'm building a solution, why am I building it? I mean, what does customer has to gain out of that solution? So that's something that kind of triggered. And majority part of the Cognizant, I also was associated with a team called Global Technology Office, which was responsible for primarily adoption of it started as adoption of the emerging technologies and setting up the best practices, but later on it panned out into three pillars, I would say. One is innovation, one is consulting, one is evangelism. So it kind of gave me widespread spectrum of experience around product development, innovations, which was large part of it. And then the consulting, where we got into premium consulting, primarily among the emerging technologies such as cloud or user experience, app engineering, or mobility. Those are all the big things back then, about 10-15 years. They were just emerging. And then one of the biggest responsibility was to convert this into large-scale practice. Cognizant was a IT service provider. So whatever we had to build, it was all about the scale at which we can deliver and the quality that we can take to the customers, right? So that kind of became the thought process throughout the part. And that's where I got into the IT strategy, architecture, enterprise kind of stream, and created multiple center of excellences, which became practices later on. And then one of the CIO from another organization called up and said, hey, you have been doing it, you have been consulting, but why don't you come and do it as a resident enterprise architect for the organization? You drive the digital transformation here. So that's how I joined Times Group. I was there for about 8 years, and I led one of the massive digital transformation there, which kind of changed the ways of working for a print organization, I would say, to a good extent, on the digital transformation front, right? And that's what led me to the where I am today, the HCL Technologies. Here I am again into more of business as well as digital transformation, more I would say enterprise transformation, because we are transforming the ways of working across different work streams, such as hire to retire, order to cash, lead to order. So there are about 6-7 work streams that we have looked at and said, okay, how can we transform some of the things? How can we emphasize or kind of bring out the best qualities out of them? So that's how I'm here today. I'm part of the CIO organization driving the transformation initiatives.
Mr. Shinde, thank you for the excellent start to this interview. And I must say your career journey is truly inspiring.
Thank you so much.
So continuing our conversation, our viewers would like to know, can you share a significant digital transformation project you have led and the impact it had on the organization?
Certainly. So I would take up this digital transformation initiative, which I had done for the media organization, right? So before we get into that, I think it's a topic very close to my heart as well, and I closely associate with this topic. But there are quite a lot of, I would say, myths or misnomer that are associated with digital transformation. So things such as digital transformation is just about automation, or it is about digitization of the analog content, or it is about just adoption of the new technology, are some of the typical misnomers, right, that the industry carries. They all are part of digital transformation or some components of digital transformation in some shape and form, but they are not the digital transformation on its own, right? So the other biggest myth that exists is it's a one-time job. You do it and you are done. So that's not true. Similarly, the digital transformation is job of a IT team. So that's again kind of a misnomer or a myth, which says that okay, IT team is responsible for driving the digital transformation business, or other functions don't have any role to play. So that's one. I mean, those are some of the misconceptions that one needs to overlook, right, in terms of digital transformation part of it. And with that lens, I would like to share some of my experiences as part of the digital transformation part, right? So first of all, on contrary to the beliefs that we spoke, the digital transformation is a fully comprehensive strategic approach, right? It is about integrating digital technologies into facets of business, I would say, all facets of the business rather. It is about fundamentally changing the ways of working of an organization. It's about changing how it operates, changing the way an organization delivers values to customers, right? Both internal as well as external, because there are employees and there are customers, prospects, and so forth, right? It is about how the organization makes decisions and the way organization stays relevant in the changing market trends. So it's all about all of these, right? And it is very, very important to instilling this very essential cultural shift towards all these aspects within the organization, right? Which kind of pushes us towards the continuous improvement and having a customer-centric mindset. So all in all, it is about ensuring long-term growth and enterprise competitiveness, right? So when we look at digital transformation, as I mentioned, it is not one-time job. It's a journey, right? And it's to do with the journeys is that you end one journey, it just marks the beginning of another journey, right? So digital transformation also is in many ways that way, because at any point in time, if you look at it, the market demand, the technology, the ecosystem, the policies, the political stimulation, they are all not same. They're all changing. If I go back and talk about, say, a dial-up to my kids, they don't even know what is dial-up. They have been born and brought up in the era of broadband itself, so they don't know what is dial-up. So that technology is irrelevant. What was a very good solution during the time of dial-ups is considered to be a poor solution today. So those are the things that we need to keep in mind. So that's why I say it is a journey, and end of every journey marks the beginning of another journey. So that's a key point to remember in any of the digital transformation. So what it entails is at any point in time, when we are looking at digital transformation, it is important for us to assess where we are, right? The number one point to assess is where we are, and number two is where do we want to go to. So what I did is, in the example that I'm talking about, we kind of assess the maturity of the digital digital maturity of the enterprise in a 5-level or 5-grade points. And we established, we are at grade X, let's say at grade 2, right? And we said, okay, we don't have to go aspire for grade 5, because for my organization, grade 5 doesn't make sense. So I will reach grade 4 and I'll be happy with that, right? Because grade 5 is over investment, but the ROI probably will not be there. So that's the first step that one has to take. And it's though I say it is a step in a cyclic iterative model, that step becomes repeatedly, right? Because you finish one journey and you start another one, you need to still do that again. So that's one part of it. Once you assess where you are and where you want to go, you identify a certain set of niche areas that you want to transform. And that is the area that I'm talking about as the components that come into play when we are talking about the initiatives. These are all smaller set of initiatives that come in as part of the digital transformation initiative and become one part of the larger program, right? So for example, I'll pick up about 5-6 scenarios which outlines why this digital transformation journey was shaped and formed the way it is, right? So first one I'll talk about is the seamless user experience through SSO, single sign-on. We had a use case there where one user would have multiple logins, right? So they will have one login for laptop, one login for email, one login for network, one login for their specialized tools that they use. So there are multiple logins. And it was, as I mentioned, was a good design some 10, 15 years back, keeping in mind the network constraints, right? Because that's how That's what drove it back then. Now with this, what we did is we kind of brought in all of these and enabled a single login for everybody. That means now it is easier for me to apply password policies, which says that, okay, you reset password once in a month or once in 2 months or once in 15 days, whatever it is, right? We can define those policies, and now it is one credential, so it will be easy for the people. And the integrated access became pretty much same. The people, for example, who were in, say, one part of the country, move to another part of the country, they don't have to get new login there. That's how it was. So it becomes one seamless experience. Now, when we are looking at cyber security planning, cyber threat management, it becomes easier for us because now you don't have to manage 4 or 5 different credential management systems. Rather, you manage one single one. So that kind of impacts the user experience, that impacts our cyber security posture and so forth, right? The second initiative, and this is all for employees, right? So here, key stakeholder is employee. The second part I'm going to talk about is how do we blend in newer digital initiatives for a non-digital enterprise, right? Which is again another project. It became a project which was primarily called as a citizen reporter, which is about getting the citizens to convey their contributions or contribute towards the articles, right? So which get published in the newspaper. So we built a application, mobile application, which allows anybody to take a pic and then submit their articles. So now, why did we do that? Because multiple things. One is there is a very strong connect that you build with the readers. Now they are not just reading what has been published, they are also contributing to what will be published. The second part is majority of these highlight the civic issues, right? So there is a pothole or there is an accident or there is need for doing certain good in some areas. Now that is something that we saw more and more started flowing in. So we also kind of worked with the government agencies and made sure that we pass on this information to them, even though some of them don't get published. We pass on all of them to the government agencies. Now government agencies are also proactively coming back and fixing, say, potholes are being filled up. So that's one of the social good that kind of came out of this initiative, right? Similarly, it also, there was RPA, robotic process implementation for doing the mundane work, right? Repeatable pieces, such as, say, for example, when GST was introduced, everybody was behind GST reconciliation. So some of the organizations took 6 months, 7 months to kind of reconcile their GST invoices. Whereas through automation and RPA, we were able to reconcile it in a matter of a day or two, which would have taken otherwise months worth of effort, and the accuracy level was pretty high, right? So these are some of the initiatives. Similarly, there were things such as we did the data center consolidation that kind of made sure our applications were we could ascertain that the downtime is not there, or we could very confidently say that, okay, even if we take certain load off, we will be able to scale up easily. Similarly, we freed up the space in our offices, which was consumed by the data centers, and then made that space available for people to work. One of the biggest transformation, I would say, is the enabling the remote working means, right? Like be it technologies such as Zoom we are on, or the Microsoft Teams and so forth. We started it off well ahead of time, and that turned out to be one of the biggest saver in the COVID era, right? This was all pre-COVID. We could easily kind of move into remote working culture, and you can imagine for a publishing organization, moving into remote work culture is not a small task, because you have huge volume of files, you have pretty hefty content, and you need good amount of bandwidth, and you need to collaborate, because publishing is also an art, right? So it's just not science. So you have to huddle, you need to collaborate, people need to come together. So all of those are some of the things that digital transformation kind of enabled. So in nutshell, there are many such other things like adoption of cloud for faster go-to-market, where marketing campaigns were launched in just about 3 days. Now, because of the low cost, they were able to go back and say, yeah, I can launch more campaigns, right? So I can play around with it. I can kind of experiment in certain things. So it kind of changes not only the ways of working, it kind of changes your mind set towards certain things. But one of the biggest barrier to digital transformation is the change management as well. You have to tell people that there is a remote working software. This is how you are supposed to use it, and engage them and then train them. Similarly, when we say somebody is submitting content through digital forums such as Citizen Reporter, it need not be authentic all the time. You need to put in a place a mechanism to validate that content, make sure that it is apt, it is right. So you need to put those checks and balances, because you have to trust content that is being submitted by somebody else and take it to market. And your trust factor is on that. Your authenticity is basis that. So these are all the things that we need to look at. That's why I say digital transformation is not just about bringing the digital elements into the ecosystem. It is primarily about ensuring that what kind of leadership is there, what kind of sponsorship do you have, is there collaboration among all the different departments, how are they all coming together to deliver it. So I think it all kind of amalgamates into digital transformation. So just wanted to bring that up and then close it off there.
All right, that sounds incredible, Mr. Shinde. All right, so building on to that, you have earned numerous awards and recognitions. So which of them do you cherish the most and why?
Okay, so the one that I cherish the most is from Dynamic CIO award. So this primarily, it kind of made me look back and say, hey, what all things I have done in the last 5-6 years? Have we actually moved the needle, or are we theoretically selling digital transformation? So what is the benefit that we have garnered out of all the previous initiatives? It kind of made me look at the past and then reflect on it. So that's one of the biggest parts. Second is this also happened during the COVID timeframe, right? So many of these events happen in person. Then you kind of have hard time to justify, or in person is easier to justify, right? That I have done this, I have done that, and this is how the things have assimilated. Now, when you are doing it in a digital medium, remote, some of the things get a bit difficult. So this is another area where we kind of did well. And for a publishing organization, that specific time frame was pretty low, because you are selling the physical goods, not just the digital goods, right? So those are the aspects which kind of stands out, and it makes you kind of feel proud on yourself, right? That, yeah, I deserve this award. So that's why this award kind of means a lot to me.
Absolutely, Mr. Shinde. And now that we have discussed your career journey, your professional pursuits, roles, and responsibilities, let's dive into the subject of ESG and corporate governance. So here is my question to you. How do you explain the evolution of your professionalism into ESG and corporate governance?
Okay, so I first came across the primary, yes, part of ESG, right? The social part of it as back in 2003, 2004 timeframe, when I was going through a book by Kaplan called the Balance Scorecard, and as well as the Strategy Map. These two books kind of give you some framework in terms of how an enterprise should be designed, right? So in one of the books, there are internal perspectives that an organization should have, and the book discusses about the four, and one of the perspective is regulatory and social perspective, right? An organization should have. That's where I kind of got exposed to the regulatory part is what I was drawn to in the beginning, but social part kind of I got onto and then kind of held on to it. Then there was another book, I believe, sorry, not book, a publication, white paper. I think it was Who Cares Wins, I believe. This was also around the similar time frame. That's where I think the first time ESG was coined as a term, common term, right? So I kind of got into that and understood what does E stand for, what does S stand for, and what does G stand for. And one of the day-to-day activities is to steer or chair the architecture review board. That's been something that I've been doing for past 10 years. I was doing it in my past organization. I do the same thing here in HCL Technologies as well. So when you do the architecture review board, when you steer the architecture review board, the governance part kind of gets embedded into it, right? So, but largely we end up looking at how my, say, for example, how my solution works, what kind of infrastructure I need to put in. If I do it with business process, am I going to improvise? And is there a value associated with that? Can I bring in certain set of ROI norms? Are they tangible, not tangible? Those are the pieces that we look into it. About 8 to 10 years back, we were trying to build enterprise-wide dashboard for my previous organization, which included what are we doing with things such as, say, for example, safety. What are we doing with things such as, say, being environment friendly, or kind of educating the folks around us. So those are the portions which slowly kind of started seeping into the enterprise dashboards also, right, which are looked at by the leaders. It could be as simple as, say, for example, I am tuning my generator, right? So generator is outdated and it is emitting too much of carbon. I can replace it with a new modern one, which kind of reduces the carbon footprint. I think that's one of the aspects. Similarly, we also started looking at, if we move our data centers and centralize them, what is the benefit we will get? Do we reduce the consumption of water? Do we reduce the consumption of electricity? We reduce. So some of those points started off, which did not come up directly as the ESG pieces, but slowly we started converging into that. For example, today, if we look at it in our organization, since I'm largely involved in the enterprise architecture and IT strategy part of it, I am also kind of responsible for charting out certain principles, which are enterprise-wide principles that we are supposed to follow through. Now, for IT organization, we have such a principle that says sustainable green IT, right? So what does it mean? Sustainable green IT is about adopting a holistic approach towards responsible green IT, right? Which is for creating the sustainable environment. It entails into establishing policy, standards, guidelines for green compliance. It involves about designing IT sustainability for green compliance through, say, responsible use of the technology and assets. How do we manage the asset disposal mechanisms? How do we recycle them? It involves strategies towards designing the data center, because data center also consumes good amount of resources, right? It consumes water, it consumes electricity, it consumes space. There is carbon footprint and all those things. So that is something that we have started looking at, and we have ingrained the environment and sustainability as one of the work streams for us to kind of focus on, right? It is led by a dedicated leader. My role is largely in terms of making sure how the IT is kind of converge into that, because when you are tapping into the reporting mechanisms for ESG, you have to get the data from, say, a lift, or get the data from a genset, or get the data from a power plant, or see how the electricity is being utilized within the organization. So all of that, and commute and so forth. So those are the parts that we are kind of enabling through our CI organization for the rest of the organization. So that's where it blends in. And though indirectly, I've been involved in that space for some time. So now looking forward to kind of build higher knowledge into that space as well.
Right, Mr. Shinde. So as a IT strategy and CXO advisor, what values do you bring to the table?
Okay, so now, I mean, I'll go back to the question that was asked by one of my bosses, which says, why are you doing what you are doing, right? So now, one of the things that it entails is that we have to look at what that person wants, right? Or what the business has to have, right? Or rather, there are two parts. One is a known part, which we say a known gap is there. I can address the gap, and this is the benefit I'll get. The second part is there is unknown. That means we don't know about the unknown part at all. And many times the value resides in that portion of the segment, right, of the question, which is largely unknown to us. Now, we may discover some of these by accident, or we may discover some of these things by intent. Now, how do we tilt the quotient towards the second one, where we start discovering them by intent, is one of the pieces which largely is about the IT strategy as well as the advisory role, right? Because one is advisory role you take up because of your past experience. You have done that, we have seen that, you see that such a gap exists, you address it. It's a straightforward one. Second one is you have done it, but you haven't come across, but you still feel that you can discover something more in the overall arena of the things. So that's the second portion of it. So I think both are equally important for an organization. So as a IT strategist, what I bring in primarily is in terms of where we are today, and on the similar lines as that of the digital transformation that I discussed earlier, we have to say where we are today and where do we want to reach, right? And to reach there, what all initiatives you are supposed to plug in. And when you plug in those initiatives, how do you measure them? How do you report them? How do you track them? How do you make them successful? Now, that is the portion which might involve just simple automation, or it might just, it just may imply that I don't have to automate, I have to use the asset better. Whatever I have to start using it better. Or it might totally modernize or migrate to a different landscape altogether. All of this has to be business driven, right? Because many times you have excellent tools, but the processes are very, very cumbersome. That means no matter how fast you do things, you will keep getting the wrong results, right? So the automation only will kind of accelerate you towards the wrong goalpost, right? So you need to identify that we are moving towards right goalpost. So that all kind of comes under the IT strategy. IT strategy is primarily about establishing synergy between IT and business, right? And in simple term, that's what it is, right? And you need to define the initiatives and say how it is going to kind of pan into those. Now, the advisory part comes into role where you actually have to literally put your feet into the shoes of those leaders, right? Because if you are looking at, let's say, a CIO, right? CIO is more interested in terms of how do I streamline my IT landscape, right? So how do I make it more responsive? How can I scale it fast, quickly? And how can I take the applications go live faster or quicker, right? So that's what a CIO will be worried about. If you look at a CISO, CISO is worried about, can I detect a threat even before it happens, right? So how can I mitigate that threat? How can I safeguard my organizations from that threat? That's where a CISO will be more worried about. Similarly, a CMO will be more worried about, how can I reach out to more prospects? How can I make sure that my customers have positive experiences? How can I make sure my organization reputation is managed well on the online forums? Similarly, a CHRO or a CHRO would be a lot more interested in, how do I make sure that employees are engaged well, right? So there are various aspects. How do I, for example, CHRO, another portion that they might be looking at is, how can I onboard a person quickly? How can I make sure the person's retention is higher up? So these are some of the aspects that these leaders look at. Now you have to look at their priorities, and you need to tell that, okay, whether those are the right priorities for organizations to begin with. And if they are right priorities, how do you enable the underlying infrastructure, applications, whatever is needed to kind of move towards that? So that's where the advisory parts comes in. Like if you tell them, okay, this is the product, you don't select, this is the product, you go ahead. That's one level of advisory. Second level of advisory is, no, you have mature products, but your processes need to change a bit. That's second level of advisory. So there are various such advisory formulas that we need to put in place, which primarily assist you or helps you move towards the end objective of the organization. So that's how these two roles are positioned, and I have been playing this for last 10 years or so. So hopefully every time I look at it, I feel, okay, I need to get better at it. So it's always an improvement game there.
Amazing, Dr. Shinde. All right, so let's move ahead and let's discuss in brief what changes do you expect to see with the advent of IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, cloud, digital twin, big data, Web 3.0, etc.
Okay, so now I have been in the digital transformation as well as the emerging technology adoption trends, and that's one of the things that is close to my heart, and I kind of love doing this on and often. So any new technology that is there, I in some or the other way try to get my hands dirty with those new coming agents. So now, so this technology shift is a constant thing, right? You keep getting newer versions, you keep getting newer things on and often. If you look at about 20 years back, the primary objective there was you build thick client Windows applications kind of setup because you did not have very good network. Now with the advent of improvements in the internet and so forth, now you don't want to go back to the thick client architecture at all. You largely want to adopt the upcoming technologies and the frameworks such as Web 3.0, for example, where your browser is capable of running certain programs that we couldn't imagine back then. Why browser? Even your mobile devices are so powerful that it kind of mimics the small mini computers back then. So the technology shift is always there. Now, if we look at, for example, cloud is one such part, right? What drove the cloud is a simple factor that I can manage infrastructure over internet, right? So that's as simple as the concept can get, right? Now it has evolved more. We have IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and so forth, right? So we have many more offerings. But if we look at the core benefits that a cloud brings in, is that I don't have to worry about the infrastructure. I get the benefit of elasticity. I go ahead and say, today I want 1 server, tomorrow I want 10 servers, you will get them, right? It allows me to go and convert my CapEx into an OpEx model using a pay-per-use model, right? And see what it did for capacity planning. Earlier, when IT systems were developed, there used to be an activity called capacity planning, which I would sit and do and say that I need to procure 4 servers because procurement takes time. Today, I deploy it on a cloud and run it and see how many servers do I need, right? So overall infrastructure dependency is kind of pretty flexible now, right? And the other biggest part is all these changing technologies or the trends have a big impact on the innovation, right? Be it small or big, they have very good influence on the innovation. Now it allows me to start small and then snowball into bigger pieces. Many of the organizations have grown that way, which have become big today, but we're pretty small in the back, right? Similarly, if we look at AI/ML, which is a talk of the town as we speak today, right? If you look at offerings from Microsoft or Google, even Zoom, as a matter of fact, it allows you to summarize your meeting, generate your scripts. It allows you to look at the overall, the transcript of the conversation. You will get it out of the box, right? So these are some of the things that they have rolled out, which we directly see. Now, imagine that I am a contract processing agency. I need to summarize and look at the contract. You can put a AI/ML solution there, which says that it can summarize the contract well. It can call out, here are your key criteria, and here are your obligations, and here is a summary of your overall contract structure, right? So that is something that it can tell. Or it could be as simple as hiring a person, resume screening and things like that, right? So those are all pretty much automated using the AI/ML today, right? Similarly, if you look at things such as the big data now, you bring in all the data, you will be able to do what, or rather you will be able to project what you have done in the past, which is the hindsight view of it, right? But you can also give the foresight view, saying that, yeah, your pattern has been this way, probably your future pattern will be this way. Here are the blunders you have done. These are the ways to correct it. It just doesn't predict, it prescribes also, right? That means you will get the solution as well, saying that this is what you are supposed to do. So those are all possible with the advance of the big data. Similarly, blockchain, if you look at it, it has many ways changed the way we look at ledgers, right? Because the immutable nature of it makes sure that I cannot change something once it has been signed. Only thing is I can amend or append to it, but I can't change the underlying. That means I have full trace of audit. So, which is very good for financial institutes or even the contract management part of conversion that we had. So those are the aspects that we feel are some of the parts. I know these are pretty big ones, and if we keep on talking, I think I'll I'll go on about it. So, but pretty much they have a way to impact your day-to-day life, right? And many of the innovations stem out of that. I think we should have an open mind to adopt and look at it. And of course, it depends on where do you get into adoption in terms of the adoption life cycle. But that's what I have to say about it.
Rightly said, Mr. Shinde, and thank you for sharing such amazing insights into different subjects. So this brings us to the last question of the session. We are building a community of industry magnates. The move is meant for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts. So what are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Heval Mehta, and the team of World Development Corporation?
So I mean, my journey with WDC started off with Jishan presenting what is the role of independent director, right? So that's where it started off, and it kind of my interest also. That's where I joined, and he patiently explained about what is, how the concept is. So first of all, I was pretty surprised to see that such a forum exists, right? Because this is something that's not easy to find. So definitely, it's a great initiative. It is instrumental in assimilating thought leadership that is required by the enterprises to run their businesses, right? It is acting as a platform of best practices for directors. It is acting as a torch bearer also for aspiring future leaders by providing insights into how corporate leadership functions, right? The comprehensive trainings and reference materials with real world examples kind of complement the overall subject. It kind of evokes the interest in the topic, even for someone who may not be interested in certain aspects, right? And the conversations with experts such as Mr. Sundareshan, right? So I have attended his sessions. They are invaluable, right? We get to learn from their experiences, and sometimes what is right behind us, we kind of miss, right? I think WDC has done a very good job in kind of making sure that those items are surfacing up, and the obvious ones are kind of visible to us more clearly today, right? It also brings in like-minded people together. All my batchmates, we have formed a group, and it works as an informal community, and it helps us to grow personally, socially, while we are doing the good for organization or the enterprises that we are working for. Overall, I believe it is doing a great job at creating future leaders. So more power to WTC.
Great, Mr. Shinde. It was fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will inspire future leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and we wish you the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute has unquestionably expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you very much for having me on this forum.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
You too have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.